You know who I'm talking about. That person on your friends list. They see your stories, maybe they'll even like a post every now and then, but they never ever post anything themselves. We all know one. Hey, maybe you are one. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of this social media ghost.
So let's start with a quick question, just for you. Seriously, think about it. When was the last time you actually shared something? A photo, a status update, a story, anything?
Okay, now for the really interesting question. When was the last time you opened an app, typed out a whole caption, maybe lined up the perfect photo, and then just closed it? That moment right there, that hesitation, that's exactly what we're here to talk about. Because in that little gap between wanting to share and actually hitting post, there's this incredibly complex calculation that happens in our brains. And understanding that hesitation, well, it reveals something really profound about our relationship with the entire online world.
All right, so let's talk about the common myth of life as a performance. What's the usual take on people who don't post? The simple answer is, oh, they must be missing out, right? That they're not really participating. But that view misses the entire point. It's not about what they're missing, it's about what they're actively avoiding.
To really get this, we have to go back in time, way before the internet, to a sociologist named Irving Goffman. He had this idea that we all manage our impressions, basically performing different versions of ourselves for different people. You know, you act one way with your boss, another way with your best friends. It's totally normal. Here's the thing. Social media didn't invent this performance. It just cranked the volume up to 11. That mask Goffman talked about, it's now on a permanent, global stage with an audience of billions, where every single performance is recorded forever. The stakes have just never been higher. And because the stage is so big and the stakes are so high, we've developed this whole set of assumptions about people who just refuse to get on stage. We think they must be antisocial or insecure or just not living a life that's interesting enough to share. But, as we're about to see, the reality is way more complex and honestly, a lot more strategic.
So let's pull back the curtain and get into the actual psychology of silence, because this isn't about fear, it's a protective instinct. The silence isn't an absence of life, it's a defense of it.
The technical term researchers often use for this is a lurker. And yeah, I know, it sounds a little creepy, right? Like someone hiding in the bushes, but the motivation behind this behavior is anything but sinister. It's actually a pretty common response to a really overwhelming environment.
And get this, we're not talking about some small fringe group here. Studies show that up to 40% of all social media users fall into this lurker category. So if that's you, you are so far from alone. This is a massive, silent demographic. So why do so many people retreat into just watching? It's often because of this nasty little feedback loop. You feel this pressure to post something amazing. That leads to constantly comparing your life to everyone else's highlight reel. That comparison then feeds this deep fear of judgment, and the end result? Just anxiety and total burnout. Lurking becomes a way to step off the treadmill. This connects directly to a really fundamental idea in psychology called self-determination theory. All it really says is that to be happy and healthy, we humans have this deep, fundamental need to feel in control of our own lives and our own choices, to feel free from outside pressure. And that's the big conflict. Social media is basically a giant validation machine. It's designed to measure our worth in likes and shares, with algorithms that can actually undermine our sense of autonomy. So by choosing not to post, people aren't being antisocial. They're actively protecting that core need for control. They're refusing to plug their self-worth into the machine.
And this deliberate choice, this decision to protect your own mind, it isn't a weakness at all. It's actually a strategic advantage. Let's talk about the surprising power and the hidden benefits that come from sharing less. You know, psychologists talk about two different kinds of self-awareness. There's public self-consciousness, which is always asking, how will this look to other people? But then there's private self-consciousness, which asks a totally different question. How does this feel to me? Non-posters tend to operate from that second question. It's a huge shift from managing an image to actually understanding an identity. And making that shift from public to private awareness comes with some real tangible benefits. You're not just avoiding anxiety, you're gaining something incredibly valuable. You get more mental space to actually think, relationships based on reality instead of a performance, and a stronger, more stable sense of who you are that doesn't need a round of applause to feel real.
A perfect example of this in action is what you could call the YouTube loophole. Think about it. A lot of people who would never post on Instagram or TikTok will happily spend hours watching YouTube. Why? Because it offers all the consumption without any of the demand for performance. You can learn, laugh, and connect with stuff you're interested in, with zero pressure to contribute back. It's the ultimate passive, low-anxiety relationship with media.
So all of this is pointing to a necessary redefinition of what connection even means in our digital age. It's time to rethink what we see as weakness versus strength online. Because the real power move, it isn't just posting about your life, it's actually living it.
I mean, when you break it down and put them side by side, the contrast is stark, isn't it? Online connection so often prioritizes quantity, visibility, and these really shallow reactions. But real-life connection? That thrives on quality, on genuine presence, and on deep understanding. The people who opt out of the posting game are often making a very conscious choice for the column on the right.
So let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. Not posting isn't hiding from the world. It's a declaration. It's you saying, my life, my experiences, and my memories are valuable all on their own. They don't need to be converted into content for public consumption to matter. That is an act of power.
And really, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It puts the entire social media rat race into perfect perspective. The ultimate currency isn't likes or shares. It's lived, unfilmed, authentic experience.
And that's the final thought I really want to leave you with. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if the person who never posts isn't antisocial or behind the times at all? What if they're actually ahead of the curve and they've already figured out that the most meaningful life is the one that's lived in the light, just beyond where the cameras can reach?